So your headline tonight.
My headline tonight, slightly different tack than my colleagues here. My headline tonight is that politics eats television. Just in a 24-hour period, we've got Cindy McCain hosting The View. Then we've got Hillary Clinton on Countdown with Keith Olbermann tonight. We've got President Bush doing Deal or No Deal. We've got Barack Obama doing The Daily Show. We've got all three candidates doing WWE Raw wrestling. And then we've got Laura Bush guest hosting on The Today Show. This may feel, to those of us in the political world, I think sometimes this feels like the last flat tire lap of a year-long road race. But if you ask the TV producers of this world, apparently this is still the greatest show on earth because they would rather book politics than anything, at least this week.
And Rachel, people say that we're just trying to fuel this story because it's good for TV. Where do they get that idea?
Well, it certainly seems to be not just good for primetime MSNBC, but it's good for everybody since the way that politicians are blanketing the schedule just in this 24-hour period.
Her basic view about this election is that the say anything, do anything, special interest-driven politics of Washington. She's taken more money from lobbyists and special interests than any candidate. You can't say that you're for the war when it's politically popular to be for the war, and then when it becomes unpopular, suddenly you say, well, I didn't really vote for the war, I voted for diplomacy. You can't do that.
All right, Rachel, look at both of their closing arguments. What do you say?
I think that the Clinton campaign is different in tone. I think that the thing that people will find in there, Democrats will find in there as controversial, is the kind of think of me when you think of bad things. Think of me when you feel afraid. Think of me when you think of war. Think of me when you think of death. That's been like the kind of Giuliani, McCain, Bush ad trope, and that's what you're getting with Hillary Clinton. I mean, the things that she wants you to be afraid of are different than some of the things that the Republicans want you to be afraid of. She wants you to think about the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Great Depression and gas rationing and all of those things, but it's still, think of me when you think things are bad. That's not the Democratic message in a year when we're coming out of 8 years of George W. Bush. And so that's still going to read to a lot of people as essentially a Republican ad. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it won't be effective, but I think it will aggravate some Democrats.
Today, what if Hillary Clinton wins big in Pennsylvania, Rachel? What's the dynamic out of the race?
Well, I don't think anybody's still in agreement about what counts as big. As you're saying, I mean, sure, the Quinnipiac poll is showing 7 points, but the spread is anywhere from 4 to 12 based on what you're looking at and depending on the time frame that you're looking at. So again, this is not determinative in terms of what happens with the delegates. This is all about whether or not she is seen as exceeding expectations. So defining expectations is the most important thing.
All right, so let's say she gets double digits. Let's say it's 10 or above.
Well, the Drudge, we shouldn't discount the fact that the Drudge headline today said her internal polling puts her at 11 points. Now, that might be completely made up. It's on the Drudge report after all. But if that is out there all day, if that was out there all day on Drudge, and that's such an influential site with the mainstream media, does that set a baseline expectation of 11 and mean that anything below 11 feels like a disappointment? The superdelegates' reaction is going to be the only thing that tells us for sure, and it's actually the only thing that matters.
But, Pat, the reality is that, as you pointed out, Barack Obama has spent a lot of money. The Clinton campaign argues that because there's been so much that's been thrown against her, a win is a win here. It doesn't matter how big it is. A win is a win. She keeps going if she can win a big state. Do you agree?
I agree, but I do think this. A win in Pennsylvania is not a game changer. She needs a game changer to somehow really break his momentum. If a big win happens, I'll tell you what. Democrats, I know the media may play it, well, Hillary did okay because of Alabama in the middle of Pittsburgh and Philly, but serious Democrats will say, what is the matter with Barack Obama that he cannot win the white working class men and women, especially the elderly? That's a swing vote to the Reagan Democrats. This guy could go down to defeat. The big question that's going to come out of tomorrow, if Hillary wins it, or wins, especially if she wins it big, is what is the matter with Barack Obama?
Pat, let me ask you, though, why is it that Barack Obama should be expected to win white male voters when no Democratic presidential candidate has won white male voters in my entire lifetime?
because it's in a Democratic primary, for heaven's sakes. I know they're not going to get them all in the general election. The question is why? I mean, suppose McCain were being beaten by Huckabee by 10 points in Pennsylvania now. We'd all be saying, what in heaven's name is wrong with John McCain?
But the transposition of the primary win to the general election win is so imperfect. I mean, these white male voters that are seen as being so important in the primary aren't going to be there for the Democrat and the general. And
Obama is going to get the majority of Hillary's vote. The question is, will a large slice of those Democrats split off to McCain? If they do, Obama will lose Pennsylvania.
Then what we should
and he'll lose the election.
What we should be talking about then is the number of independents or people who lean independent
and
who are registering as Democrats. I mean, people don't register as Democrats because they're interested in voting for John McCain.
Look, why are they still voting for Hillary? Is it because they're for Hillary or they don't want that guy? Is there that much resistance to Obama in the Democratic Party?
In November. The third question then, with all the negativity in the race, is it time for the Democrats to be worried? We certainly get a sense among these superdelegates, among the head of the party, Rachel, Howard Dean, that he wants superdelegates to start making up their mind. They don't want to see this start to play out.
That's exactly right. I think the Democrats have been concerned actually for quite some time. I think people are past scared at this point. I mean, I think Joe's point about there being 300,000 more Democratic registered voters in Pennsylvania is a really good point. And I think that does mean, as Joe was saying, that you end up with a Democratic advantage in November, unless the general election only lasts 6 weeks, because it doesn't actually start until after that Republican convention in St. Paul, Minneapolis this summer. If the general election is that short, John McCain having that much time to himself, that much of a head start, it doesn't matter if you're running Jesus on the Democratic side. There's no beating him.
Think about the swing states really quickly, though. Think about the swing states we've seen this year where Democrats have broken all turnout records. Iowa, swing state. New Hampshire, swing state. Florida, even when there wasn't a competitive ballot, swing state. Ohio, swing state. All record Democratic turnouts. Look at the fact that Barack Obama raises $41 million last month. Hillary Clinton's been raising $30 million a month. John McCain, $12 million. It's not even close. This is a Democratic year.
But this makes it imperative that these Democrats, look, they have the winning coalition. Hillary and Obama together have a winning coalition. They got winning issues. They're more money. They got more enthusiasm, more turnout, more registration. Bush is at 28%. If they get together, they win it. That's why I think Barack Obama, who's probable nominee, would be well advised to offer her the vice presidency and try to bring all those folks that she got back under the tent.
Great idea that Democrats have been talking about for some time. The candidates show no interest in taking anybody up on that.
They might show interest if they lose the nomination.
Well, at this point, they're going. At this point, they are playing to lose. They are playing to lose, and you can see that with the opportunity cost lost and them running negative ads against each other on lobbyist ties with John McCain as the other guy in the race. You're talking about lobbyist ties?
But it was McCain.
I mean, it's like one of his huge vulnerabilities in terms of the distance between his image and his record, and they're wasting their time hitting each other. David, I would just say, just briefly, I would just say, I think there's going to be some voters who have a problem with Barack Obama because of his race. I think there's going to be some voters who have a problem with Hillary Clinton because of her gender. And I think there's going to be some voters who have a problem with John McCain because of his age. And I think there's going to be some voters who don't want to vote for a senator, which we haven't elected a senator president since 1960. There's prejudice problems for all of the candidates. It's just the magnitude of each of them in each individual swing state that remains to be measured.
All right, Rachel, what do you see coming? Your prediction?
I think that even if Hillary Clinton only wins by one vote, she is staying in. I am not great at predicting voters' behavior. I think that most pundits have been bad at predicting voters' behavior for this entire race thus far, but I think all of us are getting pretty good at predicting politicians' behavior. So for me, the popular vote issue, the margin of victory, the schmargin of victory, none of it really matters. I think the issue about is expectations. And if Barack Obama wins by one vote, it seems fairly clear that that will be the end of Hillary Clinton's campaign. If Hillary Clinton wins by one vote, though, I don't think that she's going to see that as a disappointing margin and step out. I think she's been willing to fight through a lot more than that thus far. And I think we can expect to be back in exactly this same place the day after tomorrow, talking about a race looking exactly the same way, with just as many undecided superdelegates and no clear path to the nomination for Senator Clinton, but also no clear off-ramp for her out of the race.
We've also noticed, reading some quotes today from superdelegates around the country that the AP wrote about today, a lot of these superdelegates saying that they really do want to see how the race gets resolved as being reflective of the will of the people. This race will go on if she picks up a victory, and there will be questions about Barack Obama's ability to close the deal ultimately with her.
Closing the deal, we started off the show with that observation as well, and it just doesn't ring true to me. To start off, what was it, 19 points down in the polls, and to have 6 weeks and a lot of money to try to turn that down, that would be kind of a miracle to pull that off. If he ends up getting really close to her and closing a 19-point gap anywhere less than 19 points, that seems pretty impressive.
I'm out of time, Pat. I got to say goodnight.
19 points behind in the polls.
I got to say goodnight. I'm sorry, I'm out of time, guys.